Ever fancied having a go at making your very own goat's milk salt bar that's going to leave your skin feeling soft, smooth and gently exfoliated? Then keep watching because this is the video for you. Hey everyone and welcome back to our channel. I'm Anne from the Sussex Handmade Soap Company, and along with my good friend Wayne we run this channel, and we also run the Sussex Handmade Soap Company, which is a small business making bath bombs, soaps, creams, all kinds of body products down here in the southeast of England in the UK. And today we are going back to natural. We do many different things on this channel. Not all of it is completely natural, some of it is very much not natural, but kind of at the heart of everything, and where we began was with the natural soap making. So today we are going back to our roots and we are bringing you a natural goat's milk salt bar. This is a lovely recipe. It works really nicely. It gives you a gentle exfoliation, it lathers really well, and it's just a really nice, rich, creamy soap to use. We'll be using goat's milk in today's recipe, which is a little bit more of an intermediate technique, using milks in soap because you have to watch that they don't heat up too much. You can have cracking, they can scorch if you get it too hot. So we're going to be showing you how we incorporate our goat's milk into our lye solution. There are many different ways of doing it, but we are just showing you the way that we do it. And we are then going to be showing you us incorporating the salt and turning it into a salt bar. And we're also going to be talking through some of the ingredient choices and why we chose the specific ingredients that we did. We have scented the soap today with a blend of essential oils, and they are all in the description box. I can't off the top of my head remember what we scented it with, which is why I'm not saying here and now. There's some cedarwood in there, and there's some lime, and there is one other scent that has completely fallen out of my head. So it's a blend of 3 different essential oils, and it's got a really beautiful fresh scent. Bergamot, that was it, bergamot. It's got a lovely fresh citrusy scent. It really is a lovely soap to work with. I say salt bars and goat's milk are 2 things that are a little bit trickier, so if you are brand new to soap making, probably best to not jump in straight away with this recipe. We do have other recipes that are more suited to beginners, but if you are looking for that kind of next stage in your soap making, then give this recipe a go because it's a lovely one and you're not going to be disappointed. Let's get to the soap making. So I thought I'd start today by showing you the ingredients we're going to be using to make our salt bar, and also talking through some of the equipment that you're going to need. The ingredients we have got here today are our coconut oil, and this is our predominant oil for our soap today. It is a high coconut oil salt bar. Then we have got the apricot kernel oil that will be making up the remainder of the oil in our salt bar. We have also got some Himalayan pink salt, which is just going to be used to decorate the top of the salt bars. It is not essential. If you don't have access to Himalayan pink salt, do not worry at all. It is purely aesthetic and there is no real need to have this salt here. We have then got our sea salt. As you can see, there is a lot of sea salt there, and you need to look for sea salt without any added anti-caking ingredients. A lot of the sea salt you can purchase in shops will have added anti-caking ingredients. You want sea salt without that, so always check the ingredients and make sure there is no anti-caking ingredient added, and it is just pure sea salt. On the subject of salt, we like to use just fine sea salt. It works really well for us. In terms of things like Dead Sea salt and Epsom salts, I personally wouldn't recommend them. Dead Sea salt is very mineral rich, and it can actually lead to a salt bar that isn't a very nice consistency and that doesn't work very well. And the same kind of goes for Epsom salt. So in terms of actual type of salt, I would say just stick with your regular, bog standard, fine sea salt, and you can't go wrong with that. And then we have got our lye here, not to be confused with the sea salt. As you know, you cannot make soap without lye, and today this here is our lye. And for all the actual specific quantities, look in our description box because we have listed the recipe and we are listing exactly how much you need of each and every one of these ingredients. And the last thing, nope, there's two more things, the penultimate thing, ingredient even, is our goat's milk, and we have actually got 50% water in here and 50% goat's milk. Usually we do use frozen goat's milk, but I forgot to put it in the freezer in time, so it has been in the freezer but it hasn't had time to freeze, so instead of being frozen it is just very cold. Frozen is generally better, but you know, we're going to work with just very cold goat's milk / water today. And it should be fine, it's just going to take a little bit longer to incorporate our lye. And the last thing today are our essential oils, and today I have chosen to use lime, bergamot and cedarwood atlas, purely because I think that's going to give quite a nice fresh smelling salt bar, and I like the idea of that blend. If you are using essential oils, then make sure you check safe usage rates, and in particular we are using lime and bergamot. Both of those oils can be phototoxic, so when you are purchasing essential oils you want to look for distilled lime. That is not a phototoxic oil. Cold pressed lime oil, however, is. And phototoxic basically means that you're more likely to react to the sun if you go outside using a product that has had a certain essential oil in it, and citrus oils are notorious for being phototoxic. So look for distilled lime rather than cold pressed lime, because that is not a phototoxic oil. And it is a very similar story with a bergamot. This is I can't pronounce this word, bergaptine free. That basically means it has had the compound that causes the phototoxicity removed. So oh my goodness, this one here that you can read on the screen right now is the oil you want to look for if you want to make sure that your soap bars do not contain any phototoxic essential oils, which you really should be trying to do if possible, because even though they are a wash-off product, some of the essential oils can be strong and they can still react if you go outside shortly after using a product with them in, even potentially something like a rinse-off product like a soap. So go with the bergaptine-free bergamot, and also if you are looking to get products assessed within the UK, they will not, well, it would be highly unlikely for them to assess any product with bergamot oil that isn't the bergaptine-free version. So pick up that one, and these are both from Mystic Moments in the UK as well. I haven't really shopped around for them. I looked at the soapery. Couldn't see either of these on the soapery last time I checked, but they have been introducing new oils, so it's quite possible they could have them now. Last time I checked they didn't. These are from Mystic Moments and they work really nicely, so I will pop the link to Mystic Moments down in our description box as well. So in terms of equipment for today's soap making, I'm not going to go over everything that I've just shown you holding the ingredients. Obviously there's jugs and there's little ramekin dishes. I'm not going to tell you all of those things because you've literally just seen them. I'm only going to show you the additional items that I haven't yet put on screen. So you are going to want a mould for your salt bars. If you are new to salt bars, I 100% recommend choosing individual cavity moulds. They are going to be a lot easier to work with because salt bars set up so quickly that you have a very fine timeline in which you can actually cut them into bars and have them not crumble on you. So if you are new, and even if you're not new, it makes it a lot easier, go with cavity moulds, individual cavity moulds, and you can't really go wrong with them because then when they're hardened, you just pop them out, you don't need to worry about cutting them, and they are ready to go. However, I like to make things tricky for myself, so today I'm going to be making our salt bars in this tall, skinny mould, and I got this on Amazon. I can't remember how much it was. It's not a branded one, it's just a cheap silicone mould, and I've only used it a couple of times actually because I found it pretty hard to pop the soap out, so I'm hoping we don't have that issue today. This one here is from Brambleberry, but you can find similar moulds here in the UK. So that covers our moulds for today. I probably will have a little bit of excess to go into this mould, and I've done that on purpose because I am a little bit concerned about cutting my salt bar and missing that window of opportunity. And if it does all go wrong with trying to cut it from a loaf, I want to at least have a couple of bars that I can show you that work out. So predominantly using this mould, but there'll be a little bit of excess to make another bar or two in this one here. We are also using a stick blender, something which you will be very familiar with if you make soap. Can't get by without it. This one is going to need replacing soon because it is starting to get a little bit old, and yeah, I think it could do with an upgrade. And the final equipment today is just one jug that I'm going to decant our finished batter into before pouring it, because I find it much easier to pour into the cavity mould from a jug rather than from the saucepan. And a couple of stainless steel spoons, this one for mixing the lye, this one for decorating the top of the soap, and of course the old safety goggles, which I shall be popping on in just a moment when we start the soap making. So the last thing we're going to talk to before we start soap making is a little bit about soap calc and salt bars. Soap calc is a tool that lets you go online and input the oils you want to use, and it'll tell you how much lye you're going to need, and it will tell you things like how bubbly or creamy or conditioning your finished bar is likely to be. It is a very useful tool, and it can be a little confusing to get started with, but it is actually really useful for actually double checking any recipes you've got and making sure they work. When it comes to salt bars, soap calc can kind of throw you a bit of a curveball, and it can make it look like your recipe is not a very good one. The recipe that we are using, for example, it has got the bubbly right up at 60, and it has got cleansing right up at 60, where it recommends a range of 12 to 22. Now, the reason it is so high on the cleansing is because of the high amount of coconut oil. And generally, a very high percentage of coconut oil in a soap can lead to a soap that can be drying. It can feel like it's stripping your skin of all of its natural oils. And yeah, a high coconut oil soap is generally not recommended. Now, because we are using a lot of salt, we need a lot of coconut oil because it is the only thing that's going to bubble and lather really nicely in the presence of all that salt. So the way we combat the issue with the high cleansing is we raise the superfat. That's what I was going to say. We raise our superfat. So somewhere just up here, and I'm looking at this upside down, there we go, superfat 15%. With a normal soap bar, you would probably go for around 5, possibly up to about 7% superfat. With a salt bar, you want a higher superfat, and that combats the drying effect of the coconut oil. Generally, we go for about 20% superfat with our salt bars, but today I have lowered it to 15, purely because we are using goat's milk, and the goat's milk is going to have fat in it. So that is actually going to be a little bit more oil for the lye to saponify. So I have lowered our superfat from our normal 20% for a salt bar down to 15% to allow for the fact that we have got the added goat's milk in there. And hopefully it will work and it will create a nice bar that feels good on the skin, doesn't feel drying, and creates lots of lovely bubbles and lather. So yeah, soap calc is brilliant for most recipes, but you will get the odd recipe where it kind of gives you the impression that you're not going to have a great bar of soap, when in actual fact you probably will. I think Castile soap is another one where soap calc doesn't give great results or great impressions, but I'd need to double check that. But yeah, I've run it all through soap calc. I'm happy with how it's looking. So let's get on and make ourselves some goat's milk salt bars. So just another quick couple of bits of equipment that I missed of our equipment list: a spatula and a temperature gun, just so we can keep a track of our temperature. And the first thing I'm going to do is take our solid oil, so take our coconut oil, and I'm going to get that slowly melting whilst I move on to working with the lye. I'm looking for a cool temperature today, somewhere around about 80 degrees Fahrenheit or under. The reason being is that coconut oil soaps can heat up a lot and they can crack, so we want to work as low as possible. And in addition to that, we are using goat's milk, which due to the sugars in it can also heat up. So we want a nice cool soaping temperature today of around, I say, 80 Fahrenheit or lower if possible. So I'm going to get this on the hob now, slowly melting while we move on to the lye. So now I'm going to move on to actually dissolving our lye in our goat's milk and water. So I've popped on my gloves and I've also got on my goggles as well, just for that safety aspect. And I've placed my jug of water and goat's milk into a bowl of cool water just to help it stay at a lower temperature. And I'm going to start slowly incorporating our lye into our goat's milk and water here. And there are a number of different ways of incorporating the goat's milk into the soap. I know that a lot of people do actually add the goat's milk at trace. And because we are using 167 grams of water, 167 grams of goat's milk and 167 grams of lye, we could have actually added our goat's milk at trace and just done a 1-to-1 water to lye ratio. But I just kind of prefer doing it this way. There are numerous different ways of, let's say, incorporating the goat's milk into the soap, and this is just the way that we do it. So if this way doesn't work for you and you can't get on with it, then do research other ways of adding in goat's milk, because there are other ways of doing it. And like I say, we generally start with frozen goat's milk, just because it cools down a little quicker. And also it gives off less fumes. Working with lye, you want to make sure you're in a nice, well ventilated area, as well as having your gloves and your goggles and your long sleeves. Because we are working with cool liquids, that will result in less fumes, but there will still be some fumes, so make sure you are in a nice, well ventilated place. And as you can see, I've just been slowly adding the lye, teaspoon by teaspoon. And I will periodically take the temperature gun just to keep a track of what the temperature is. I want to make sure the temperature of this liquid here stays below 100 degrees Fahrenheit. If it goes above 100, it is likely to scorch and turn brown and smell horrible. I'm fully expecting the goat's milk to turn a yellow colour, which is fine. It often turns yellow, but the bars themselves end up a lovely creamy white shade. But you don't want to see brown, and you don't want to smell scorched, burning ammonia. And this will take a little while. You do need patience to do it this way. It is probably quicker, I suppose, to add your goat's milk at trace. But I just like getting it all incorporated to start off with, and I've got time, so there's no real need to worry. I'm stirring well after each addition just to make sure that lye does get nicely incorporated. And I'm just going to continue working like this until all of our lye has been incorporated into the goat's milk and water. So after that last addition, you can see I'm already up to 100.4 Fahrenheit. So what I'm going to do now is just keep stirring, but I'm not going to add any more lye until it has cooled down a bit. And this is probably going to take me a good sort of 15-20 minutes to get all of this lye incorporated into this goat's milk. So I'm going to carry on doing this. And when it's all incorporated, I shall come back to you guys and we'll move on to the next step. So we are still dissolving our lye into our water and goat's milk off camera, but I thought now I'd show you the next step with the coconut oil. Wayne has melted this down for me, and it is currently at 83.8 degrees. So what I'm going to do now is take our apricot kernel oil, and I'm just going to add that into the melted coconut oil, and then I'm going to give it a nice stir just to incorporate it. And then take the temperature again, and hopefully it will be below 80. Yeah, it is at 81.8. I'm perfectly happy with that because we are still doing the lye, so it will come down a little bit lower. So what I'm going to do now is add in our essential oils. We've got our cedarwood, our lime and our bergamot all together in this one ramekin. And I'm just going to mix them in to the coconut and apricot oils. And then I'm just going to pop them to one side and continue on with the lye until it's all dissolved and ready to use. So we're finally ready to move on to the next part of the soap making now. I'm not going to lie, it took a lot longer than I was anticipating to actually work that lye into the goat's milk and water. It took about 40 minutes to get all of the lye in total, so a lot longer than I was anticipating, but we are ready now. The oils are very slightly under 80 degrees, I think they're about 78, and the lye, last time I checked, it was 82, so close enough, and I'm happy with that. So what we are going to do now is carefully pour our lye solution into our oils, and that is what our lye is looking like. As you can see, it's kind of a creamy yellow colour. It's not brown, it's not scorched, and it doesn't smell of ammonia either. So we are going in to our oils with our lye solution. And I'm now going to use the stick blender to bring this to a light trace. Because we're working at a lower temperature, I want to watch out for false trace, which is where you think that you have reached trace because it starts to thicken, but in actual fact it is just the oil starting to solidify again. So I'm going to watch out for that, but there shouldn't be any problems, and we're just going to work, say, to a light trace today. Whoa, okay. So, I forgot to press record just now because we had a little bit of a blender issue. We actually changed our blender midway through bringing to trace because the other one broke on me. So I paused the camera while we sorted everything out and then forgot to press record again. So you have actually missed me showing you that this was at a nice light trace and me adding in our sea salt. All I did was I took the bowl of sea salt, tipped it in like so, and I've just worked it in with the spatula, and that's all you've actually missed. So you haven't missed a huge amount, just a little bit annoying. But yeah, working it in with the spatula, and then I'm going to go back in with our stick blender and just sticking it up very slightly more, whoops, before pouring into our mould. Yeah, sometimes life just kind of throws things at you out of nowhere, like a blender completely breaking, mid-soaking, which throws everything off track. Luckily we had our replacement, albeit our damaged replacement. So all nicely incorporated now. I'm at the kind of consistency that I'm hoping you can see. I was going to try and describe the consistency, but no word comes to mind, so I'll just sort of show you. Anyway, we're actually going to transfer into the jug now to make it easier for pouring, so you'll see the consistency as I pour. And there's a couple of bits of sea salt there that don't seem to have incorporated so well, so once I've got everything in here, I'll give it another quick stir. That's another reason that I like actually pouring into a jug, is that you do get a chance to see if there is any undissolved sea salt. That lead is really tapping. Put that there, that should stop it. So now all I'm going to do is pour our batter into our mould, bringing it up to the top of the mould. And I do find that this mould does tend to sort of splay out a little bit in the middle, which is kind of irritating, but we'll just work with it. And then I'm going to bring in that cavity mould and just fill up a couple of these individual cavities. And I don't know if you can see on camera, but if anyone can see and is wondering what the very slight blue flecks in this soap are, that is nothing intentional, but when the blender broke, it fell completely apart on me. And some little blue flecks. Yesterday I was making a blue soap, So I presume there are some blue flecks of colourant caught under it somewhere, and they have kind of been deposited into today's soap. So it's a good job this is not one that is for sale. It is purely for personal use. And just a little bit frustrating that those couple of blue flecks have actually gone into today's soap, because I wanted a nice creamy white one. But never mind. So there we go, we have got our loaf and 3 individual bars of soap here. I'm going to texture this loaf a little. I'll give it a bit of time to set up first, and then we'll move on to texturing it. So please excuse the assortment of books that have now adorned my table. I'm essentially just trying to wedge the mould in between them so that it doesn't splay out so much in the middle. This is working with, you know, medium success. It's not splaying out as much, but it is still slightly splaying, but it's fine. So now we are going to texture the top with our spoon. And I'm going to take the spoon and I'm just pulling it away from me and curving. So I'm going a curve away and up to the opposite end, just to add a little bit of detail to the top of the soap. Easy as that. And now I'm going to go to our Himalayan salt that I showed you earlier, and I'm just going to sprinkle it along one side of the soap. And this is purely to add some decoration. You don't have to do this. Some people may even not want to do this because you may find it scratchy when you use the soap bars. If you do, it'll be easy enough to just pick it off, but if you don't want to add it, don't add it. And if you'd rather add something like calendula flowers or cornflowers or something to make it kind of flowery and pretty, then by all means do that. I'm just going with the salt because I like the colour of it, and I think it goes well with the obvious salt bar theme. So that is our salt bar soap that I'm not going to touch now, because the second I move these books it'll probably all splay out again and ruin the design, so I'm not even going to touch it now. But if we are going to be back in between 2 and 4 hours to cut this. Salt bars need to be cut really soon after making, because otherwise they will firm up too much. And if I was to leave this till tomorrow, like I do with most of my soaps, by the time I came to it, it would be too hard to cut and it would crumble and break and shatter, and that wouldn't be good. So we'll be back in 2 to 4 hours to hopefully chop up this baby. Chop up this baby? God, that sounds evil. Chop up this soap. So when I say that salt bars firm up quickly, they really do firm up quickly. I've unmoulded this one now, and it has only been 1 hour since we poured it. So 1 hour in, and I think we're going to attempt to cut it. I'm going to place it, this way round, so we don't drag that salt on the top down through the bars. And I'm going to go through with the soap cutter. And that is our salt bar soap cut 1 hour after making. I normally take a piece from the middle, but I'm actually going to take a piece from the edge this time. And that is what it is looking like so far. Pretty happy with that, but we're going to leave it for another 24 hours and then take another look at it and see how it's firmed up. And obviously, just to point out, I am still wearing my gloves because this is still super caustic. It has not saponified at all yet, so when you're working with salt bars and cutting them so quickly after having made them, make sure you keep your gloves on so you don't risk burning yourself with the lye. 1 salt bar cut. I'm going to get the others up now, pop them on the side and leave them for another 24 hours and then show you how they are looking. So here are the finished goat's milk salt bars. They are smelling absolutely incredible. It is a really fresh, invigorating, citrusy scent. These are a couple of days old now, but already they are super, super firm. Like, I can't even make any indent in that. I'm squeezing as hard as I can, and I cannot make any mark on that. That is how firm salt bars do get. This is not ready to use yet. Just because it is firm, it is not ready to use. It still needs to cure, and we like to leave our salt bars for 6 weeks as opposed to 4 or 5, which we often leave our regular soaps for, purely because we think leaving the salt bars that little bit longer really helps them to mellow out. It really helps them to create a nice lather when you use them. So we prefer leaving them for 6 weeks just so they are at their optimal kind of latheriness when you come to using them. And that is 6 weeks as a minimum. You could leave them longer if you wanted to, but try, if you can, to wait a minimum of 6 weeks before using the salt bars. Thanks for watching today's video. If you enjoy our videos, please do hit subscribe, leave us a comment, hit the notification bell. We have got a lot more videos coming up over the next few weeks that are focused on the natural soap making again. So we have got indigo, we have got some more goat's milk, we have got Himalayan rhubarb. So a lot of videos focusing on natural soaps coming up. If that's your thing, hit subscribe. If not, there'll be other things too. So, hit subscribe for the other stuff. We will see you next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.